Hi y'all, how y'all doing? So, um, I never realized that when I accepted this job offer, I was happy that this particular job was taking me back to my hometown. And, I'm only day two of this position as a caregiver, aka personal care assistant. I was truly grateful for given this opportunity. Obviously, God had it all planned out. And it was planned out, and then the mouse was preparing me to take a step back and pay attention to detail. I've always been somebody that paid attention to detail, and evidently going through the struggles of being a single mom and being a workaholic, I kind of lost sight of that. um, I have so much to say, but I applied for my first job at Burger King 10 days before my 16th birthday, when you were of age to be able to work. And I left at 17. And when I left my parents' house, it was for a boy. We lasted about 5 years together, so it wasn't a total fail. But if I were to change things, I would have stayed at my parents' house until I actually graduated high school. Because I end up pregnant my senior year in high school. I end up having to, they actually withdrawed me because my grades were good and they didn't want me to lose the credit. So they withdrawed me to give me an opportunity to return to my senior year. And that's how I went from going to the vote to Lowell High. I promised my parents that I was going to graduate from high school, even though I was out on my own, and I kept my promise. I got my high school diploma. Me and my oldest daughter's father, we did everything right. We worked for our stuff. We got our own apartment. We each had our own cars. But then, life took us on a ride. Um, after I broke up, after me and my oldest daughter's father separated, that's when I turned into a workaholic. I ate and breathed work. I didn't realize how much I lost myself being a workaholic until this job was put in my path. And the mouse was basically communicating with me to prepare me of, you've been to Lowell for the past 15 years a million times, but you're going to see Lowell in a whole new light. So it started yesterday, feeling the same anxiety I felt every time I went to Lowell. I just didn't, I was so, when Comcast took me up here, I was excited. I wanted to get out of Lowell. I didn't want nothing to do with Lowell. I would come back with the people that I love, but I just really didn't want to do nothing with Lowell. And over the years, I would just drive there, go to my friend's house, and not embrace the change that was going on. And, these past couple of days helped me understand that I did have a problem with accepting change. Yesterday, my anxiety was doubled over. I just wanted to get the shift over and done with and come back home. I didn't feel myself. I was unhappy yesterday. I was trying to figure out what it was. I came home last night because I'm going back and forth to Lowell. And I came home last night and I was just trying to figure out why yesterday in particular that Lowell got me so overwhelmed that I cried myself to sleep. Spirit woke me up at 4 o'clock this morning, said my prayers, and then they gave me the message that I needed to put on my status of Facebook. I went back to sleep around 5:45 in the morning, took a power nap for 2 hours to get ready for my second day at work in Lowell. But that cry, I really released a lot in that cry last night. It felt great. I woke up feeling great. I was worried that I was going to be tired from crying, having a swollen face, but I guess I still had leftover residual from the past that was in my subconscious that I finally brought up to release, move on, and let go. So I'm driving to Lowell, and everything just looked so different to me. I started seeing Lowell, which I wasn't seeing in the 15 years that I've been out of Lowell. I never really looked at Lowell the same. Every time I went back there, I would always think of the bad memories that it held for me. But today, I gotta say, God was basically telling me, let me show you what Lowell did for you. And let me show you that you can accept change. Let me show you that you've healed from your past and that there's only good memories left in your hometown. So I started my shift as usual. I'm a caregiver, so I take my client places and all that. She had a particular appointment, so she let me go off on my own. So I thought, I'd go to check on my best friend because she had major surgery. And she needed me to run a couple of errands, so I did. But there was no sofrito at one of the stores, so I was like, I'll go to the store across town in my old neighborhood. She's like, no, 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 don't worry about it. But God was like, no, you're going. I was like, all right. God ended up taking me back to the park that I grew up in, McPherson's Park. I haven't walked in that park since I was a kid, and all these good memories started rushing through. It was right around the corner from my dad's house, so my parents trusted us that we could walk around the corner to the park. We never really had to worry about anything. I grew up with the front door wide open, and it was just the screen door. Everybody loved everybody. There was no judgment. Okay. So when I saw this park, I couldn't believe how much it expanded. It looked so much bigger than it was when I remember it as a kid. Then I went to the hill that I went down in my training wheel bike that I fell on my face and scratched my face up all on the left side of my face. I went to that hill, and that hill, what seemed like it was so big as a kid, when I saw it for the first time, because I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, I was like, wow. I scared myself so much on that hill. As I look at it now, it wasn't even really a hill. It wasn't even that big. So I was like, wow, it's amazing how we scare ourselves to make things bigger than they are when it was actually smaller than it is. I started having a rush of good memories, and they took me back to my neighborhood. And I had a moment there. It was hard to see townhouses built on my dad's property where a house once stood. It was hard to see that the big backyard that I used to play in, that was all trees and woods, it was no longer that. If anything, there's a fire hydrant there, and you'll see it in the pictures when I post it with this video. And when I left out of there, a guy pulled in, and he was just looking at me funny. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to trespass on the property. I'm like, I grew up here when I was a kid. And he's like, no, he's like, it's fine. And he's like, really? He's like, these were just built. And I go, no, my dad's house stood here. And I go, it actually had more yard. It actually had woods in the backyard. Where you're parked right now, that's where my basketball hoop was when I played basketball. And I go, in the side of that townhouse that faces the street, that used to be my front door, but now it's just the side of a townhouse. Then it took me back to the church I grew up going. It took me back to the building where I had my CCD classes. And it was just so weird that, I've been going to Lowell for 15 years to visit, but I kind of put a blindfold to my memories. I kind of put a blindfold to the landmarks that were there. And today it just became a wake-up call, so to say. God's just basically telling me to open up my eyes and see, And I saw Lowell in a different light today, and I'm so grateful for that. I came to realize that this job was a spiritual walk back home to find me. I never realized how much I lost me when I was a workaholic. I never realized that I wasn't putting me first until I did my spiritual walk in my hometown today during my lunch. And now I realize why I'm so adamant when I tell people don't make it all work and no play, because God has shown me how much I made it all work and no play. God has shown me that my workaholic took me away from things that were important, people that were important, and I was being stubborn. And he took my blindfolds off today and goes, look around you. And it was just amazing. I never really realized until today how much I was a workaholic. And yes, to one single mom to another, I get it. We have to work to make ends meet. But I took away from my daughter. Those couple of times of mommy and me times during the month wasn't enough. And I'm realizing a lot of things that even though a person like myself who try to do the right thing, try to be responsible, be reliable, I let myself go. I let the situation with my daughter in her teenage years get to me to a point where I sucked myself in such a deep, deep depression that I couldn't get myself out of it. And then when slowly, people came, when I finally accepted help and I let people help me, I started slowly seeing that that responsible, reliable, loving person had become unreliable, irresponsible, held herself back because she was so busy jumping for everybody else, helping everybody else, that I end up losing myself. Came to realize that I was jumping for the wrong people. Came to realize that this time around, the people that were from back then, the ones that stuck with me and stayed around, were the real true few. And I appreciate you all. To this message that goes to. Then I, thought back, why I became a single mom. Here I'm thinking I'm emotionally available, but I came to realize I was unemotional and detached. So of course I was going to attract the men that were unemotional and detached. That, love is unconditional. And if you're only receiving conditional love and not unconditional, that's basically, someone becoming unemotional and detached. I learned a lot of life lessons today. I learned how much I let my job take over my life to a point where I lost myself. And God had me do this spiritual walk back to my hometown. I found myself today. I found me. I got me back. I got the me that, is the person that gives unconditional love. But now I know how to set healthy boundaries. Now I know to be mindful of how I say, do, what. Now I know that, as much as, I want to give out free to everybody doing this online thing, I can't. That I'm providing a service and that, I took a big risk and a sacrifice to do this online, but I was basically letting myself get walked on. That, There has to be a certain exchange when you're providing a service, and I didn't see it as that. I saw it as helping people. But then when I burnt myself out the other night, and God had me come on camera to show you all what happens to a workaholic when she doesn't know when to quit. And, this job definitely showed me how to balance my work and play, that to stop and look at what's around you, stop and enjoy the scenery. I never realized that all these years that I was going to Lowell, I was putting a blind eye to the beauty of how Lowell was expanding. So, God, I just have so much to say, but I never realized how much I was a workaholic until God took me back home. And I gotta say that driving in Atlanta definitely prepped me, because when I would go to Lowell, I'd only go to the person's house. I never really faced the traffic that was there. There's more people there, there's more cars. And today, when I had to run the errands, I was like, holy crap, the freaking traffic. You know what I mean? Nothing compared to Atlanta, but Atlanta really helped me overcome my anxiety and be more patient with traffic. Atlanta showed me how to be that, aggressive driver, but within reason. So I definitely thank Atlanta, Georgia, for helping me handle the traffic in Lowell, because that was ridiculous. I met some great people. Because again, I didn't stop and look. I didn't stop to see. I just, went to Lowell and went to see my friend and went back home. I didn't really want to embrace Lowell because it just left a bad taste in my mouth. But when God took me on my spiritual walk today around my hometown, all good memories came through. All good memories of when I was a kid. That my parents worked so hard, but they found time for work and play. They made sure that we were active in sports, and that they did their annual camping trips and trips to Storyland and Santa's Village and Canopy Lake. And no wonder why I was raised by great parents, and I turned out to be a great woman. But this woman lost herself along the way, and when I went back to my church, I felt so blessed to know that, I went to church and I completed the program, did all the CCD classes, and to know that that church turned into a great big school center for the kids. So I definitely have to balance the work and play, especially if I have a grandchild on the way. My son is only 10, so, I still gotta be there for him. And I know, to the single moms, I know it ain't easy. I get that. But don't turn into a me. Don't turn into a workaholic. Okay? I never realized how much I missed out on by always being at work. I lost a lot of years, but it is what it is, and I accept and surrender to what is. But I know now that I'm going to balance more. I'm going to be more responsible, more reliable, because I started seeing the unreliable and the irresponsibility when I would replay my videos. I found myself in the video saying something, and to you guys, it's nothing. To me, it was, I held on to that expectation. And I realize now that, just like that mouse was trying to tell me that night, hey D, take a step back, pay attention to the detail. You're missing out on things. And today I realized, through so many thoughts going through my head, I missed out a lot because I stuck myself in work all the time. My daughter, who got the brunt of my workaholic years, she got the brunt of it. And I'm sorry, baby girl. I didn't mean to work so much. And I love you. And I can feel you. And God's telling me you're doing it. You're taking responsibility, and I'm proud of you, because I could feel you again. I couldn't feel you before, but I can feel you. So we're making our way back to each other, baby girl. And I'll see you soon. I hate being a Pisces, man. God. Pisces are like extra sensitive. And, when it started in the 5th grade with my geometry teacher, D, trust your intuition. And I didn't trust it. And when God gave me this gift of being a spiritual teacher, a psychic empath online, an intuitive tarot and oracle reader, I never realized how much I blocked myself from trusting me and trusting my intuition. And that it was okay to set boundaries and that it was okay to say no. So just know that the words I preach to you, I eat them every now and again. You got the knowledge, D, but why don't you follow it too? Reality checks from left to right. And when I say throw out positive, it comes back positive. Well, when I threw it out that I got this, what I got back was basically I was lying to myself. And that's why God said, I'm going to show you how you don't got this. You're lying to yourself. So if you're throwing something out there and you're lying to yourself, just know it's going to come back to bite you. Because boy, it came back to bite me in so many ways. So always stay true to you. I grew up thinking that people didn't like me, just because I spoke the truth. My mom told me since I was a little girl, don't try to lie your way through life because you're not going to get away with it. You can't lie for shit. And when she put that in my head, I was like, I can't lie for shit. So people disliked me because I spoke truth. Oh well. I'd rather have the truth be said and done than lies continue to follow me and where I had to continue to build on that lie. I always spoke my truth so it didn't come back to bite me as high as it comes back to bite the liars, the cheaters, the ones that are not being fair to themselves. So, and I learned that I used to take everything personal. Now I know not to take everything personal. I learned to set my healthy boundaries, to know when enough's enough. And I hope that my guidance and insight and awareness that I bring online helps you to figure out early, because I was real slow, but I wasn't dumb. I'm 43 and I'm now just getting everything that I should have had back then if I would have just trusted my intuition, if I would have just stopped worrying about what people thought, if I would have just, calmed down and realized that things have a way of working out and that every now and again you might not like the outcome, but at least it's going to work out. I learned that to not hold on to things that I have no control over and to finally release it. So this has been an amazing day. I wonder what the next 5 days of this job contract does for me. I thank God that I was given this job and that it took me back to my hometown, and that now I can go visit Lowell and not have those bad memories stir me anymore. God showed me today how much I've healed, how much I healed. I did it. I did it for me, not for anybody else. I did it for me. And now I want to share that with you. Don't lose yourself in the process of this world. I'm just saying. Don't be a workaholic. Find time for play. Because if you look back like I did, there's very few memories that I have because I was so busy stuck at a job. So don't lose out like I did. Don't make it all work and no play, because you're talking to a former workaholic. And I got slapped back saying, hey, this is where, not necessarily where I went wrong, but this is why you went downhill, because you didn't stop and pay attention to the detail. That those details that you missed were going to come back to bite you. So I'm just saying, what you put out there, if you're lying to yourself, you're going to get slapped back. Just saying. And that the words I speak, just know that I either eat them or I go by them. I'm not talking out of my ass. I'm talking from my heart. But today was an amazing day. It just felt magical. I haven't felt low in so long. In so long, I haven't felt my hometown. And I'm so appreciative that I got taken back there this time around and I saw it in a whole different light. I embraced the change. I accept the fact that the hospital that I was born in is no longer there. I accept that the elementary school has the same name and same sign, but the building was knocked down and built new. And if anything, it was built bigger and better with more park play area, something we didn't have back then. That my junior high was no longer there, but I have the memories to remember my junior high years. And the high school still standing. My high schools are still standing. But I accept change and I surrender to what is. So this is my video of surrender to what is, because when you don't accept change and you wait as long as I did, you get a reality check from left to right. I got so emotional when I walked through that park. So many memories came. I'm like, my first softball game was over there. My first swim was over there. My first basketball playing was over there. And I really lost sight of, the good things, the good memories that Lowell gave me. And it helped me realize that I've healed because none of the bad memories came. It was all good memories. I had, so surrender to what is and keep the memories, the good memories, alive in your heart, because that's where they live on. So I'm coming back home tonight to rest and go back to Lowell tomorrow. So these are words from a former workaholic. Don't make it all work and no play. And don't wait till you're 43 to finally learn the lesson. I'm just saying. Thank you, God. I feel so blessed with what you've given me today. Just saying.